Hi, everybody. My name's Jamie Korn. I'm the Director of Development here at Family and Children's Center. We really want to take the time to thank you today, Heidi, first of all, for nominating us, and for the League of Ridiculousness for your consideration for our Host Homes project. We hope today that we can provide you with an overview of what homeless youth look like in our community. And give you an idea of what it is that you can do to help us. The population of homeless or displaced youth in our country is growing just as it is right here in the La Crosse community. Oftentimes people have a bias or a stereotype in their head of what they think about what a homeless youth might look like. And they sometimes think of maybe there's somebody that's involved in criminal behavior, that they have a lot of behavior problems. But oftentimes, really, why youth are homeless in our community is because, number one, their family is homeless. Number two, that they are living in an unsafe situation, that they are being abused in their home, that their parents have had problems with past criminal behavior or alcohol and drug use within the home. And today what I want to do is I want to bring together a panel of experts in this area to really kind of shed a light on what's happening in our community, what it's like for these youth, and what it's like to provide a home for a homeless youth in need. And so today I have Diane Ranger with us. She is our social worker extraordinaire for our Host Homes program. And she's the person that would really take the time to sit down and make sure that the youth and the host home provider are a good match and a good fit for one another. We have Louise Campbell, who actually oversees the program, and we have Heidi, who is not only our nominator, but she is also a host home provider. And so what I'd like to do today is I'd like to first start off talking about just what the host program is. And we're going to have Louise give you a little bit of an overview on what our host home program is.
Homeless or displaced youth struggle with meeting their most basic needs, such as food and shelter, because of a life challenge. When participating in our host home program, we're able to bring stability to the youth who are facing disruptive forces in their lives. At the most basic level, host home volunteers provide food and shelter for youth ages 14 through 21 who lack a stable and secure residence. The program is voluntary for youth. They're under no obligation to seek and maintain involvement in the program, so the level of commitment is discretionary for both youth and our host home volunteers. Being matched to a host home allows the youth to continue to live, attend school, and work within their respective community. Being placed in a host home gives the youth time, space, and support to stabilize and address any immediate needs, such as food and shelter, while they work on their personal goals to help transition into young adulthood. Jamie, you're on mute.
Part of the beauty of technology. I apologize. So thank you, Louise, for that concise definition of what host homes is and the support that we provide in the community. Heidi, you have actually been a host home provider, and we'd like to talk to you a little bit about how you actually got started in the program, what it's been like to be a host home provider, how you've seen the youth within your home flourish, and how it may have changed you as a person.
Well, thanks, Jamie. I appreciate that. It was completely serendipitous how my husband Howie and I got involved. We have good friends, Adam Reich and Christy Stokey, who are also league members, and they, through the goodness of their hearts, had taken in a young woman who was in her junior year of high school, and were hosting her. And when they did that, I remember reading an article in the paper, but I really didn't get to see what the program was until I got to live it through my friend's eyes. And I was very impressed with the amount of stability and support and just love that they were giving to this young lady. And fast forward to a point where they learned that their jobs were being moved, or rather Adam's job was being moved to the UK, and so they were no longer going to be able to provide a home to this young lady. And Howie and I had been enjoying empty nest life, but frankly wanted to give back to the community. And so when this situation just kind of presented itself, where this young lady didn't have an available host home, I think everybody was spoken for. Um, and she knew us, she knew our neighborhood, we knew the family, that had already kind of been surrounding her with love. We said really would just be a crime if we couldn't, step up and make this happen. And the other thing I want to add is that the young lady herself, who I'm kind of not mentioning for her own privacy reasons, um, she just impressed me so much that she, as a young lady, knew to speak up and not suffer in silence. It was through her speaking up to her Boys and Girls Club folks and her counselors that she recognized that the situation she was in was not right, and that she was going to need something better in order to thrive and be her best self. And so just that courage and just was so heartwarming and inspiring. So we wanted to embrace that and help support her as best as we can. So we had her for her senior year, and we got to know her very well and have her friends over. I would say that, ours was, I don't know, what the typical host homes experience is, but I can say that, as Louise was mentioning, it starts with just food and shelter, but we kind of insisted on having meals together, and we did things together, and through that we formed some really amazing relationships, not just with our host home student, but actually with her family. And so sometimes you forget that there's a family involved, and you're kind of helping to understand the situation. Sometimes there's separation for a reason, but sometimes there are bridges that that still need to be built or repaired and things like that too. So she's now out in the community and making her way, trying to figure out her educational path and her career path, as most young people her age are. After her graduation, we actually hosted a second student, and that was a completely different experience, but a different set of circumstances, different individual, and we tried to support that young lady as best as we could prior to the pandemic. And then some of the complications of COVID-19 started to hit, but she just needed a quiet space. She just needed a place to kind of regroup and figure out her life because of some traumatic things happening in her life. And we don't have as much, we didn't have as much of a close relationship or a close contact, but certainly very loving, nurturing type of friendship in a way. And so the range can be really broad, and to the point of how did it change us. I mean, we learned about this problem in the community first and foremost. I mean, I had no idea that there were this many kids that were just feeling lost, and there are probably many more that are suffering in silence. But usually it's through an intervention with the guidance counselor at school, or kind of a social program. But the if you have a relationship with these kids, you start to see what is their experience like, and you learn about your community in a way that you just can't learn unless you are hearing this firsthand. And I think not only that, but just to create those relationships sends a message that we are a caring community, that we are here for each other. I mean, we're not just giving this lip service that, we will give you a safe place to stay. We'll give you a meal to eat, or whatever it is that you need, we'll listen and we'll provide. And it also taught us a lot about not always assuming, that best what the child needs, because that's where Diane's help was so great to me, that the program, provides Diane and her team the ability to reach out to the families as well and say, how can we support you? And through that, we learned about things like the impact of trauma. What do ACEs look like in a child, and how does that impact what they might need from you, even though you might have a completely different assumption about that, right? So all around, it was just a great experience. I would encourage every league member who's got a space in their home to step up and do this. You can do this. And if anybody ever wants to talk to Howie or me, we're always open to that conversation. So I'll wrap there since I don't want to monopolize the conversation, but I could sing the praises of the Host Home program and the wonderful things it's doing to bring community together all day long.
Thank you so much for your perspective on that, Heidi. Diane, I'd like to hear a little bit from you, because you are the one that gets to work very closely with each of the families and support the families, and each of the youth and support the youth. And so if you could talk a little bit about the transformation you've seen in the families that have hosted homes and the youth that have been participating in this program, that would be fantastic.
Thank you, Jamie. Heidi and Howie, you guys are my heroes. I love working with our host homes. We have the most wonderful, host home volunteers, and this program wouldn't exist without them, because this is a very unique program in that we're matching people that truly do have just this heart to care and to change. And I think sometimes we look at the community, we look at community problems, and we think they're just too overwhelming. You know, I have no idea what to do about this, but I do care. And one of the things that has been consistent, and seeing this in the host home program, is that there is a kind of a magic bullet, and that magic bullet is relationship. And study after study is coming out and showing that relationships heal us, and giving yourself to a youth, that does amazing things. I want to tell you the story of, I'm changing her name just because I have to use names. That's who I am. So I'm changing her name to Lisa. But Lisa was referred to us by her high school social worker. And the social worker was very concerned because even though Lisa had a lot of grit, she just really advocated for herself. The situation was pretty desperate for her, and they were worried that she wasn't going to be able to finish high school at all. Lisa grew up in a home with a lot of drugs and criminal activity. Her stepdad is currently in prison, and kind of threw her mom into a tizzy. And so her mom ended up being evicted from her apartment, found a place elsewhere, but it wasn't adequate for all of the kids. And so Lisa started looking for places to stay at night, and she did a lot of couch surfing, which is really what we find a lot of the youth in our area they do, is they go from friend to friend or relative, but they don't have a permanent place. And so the school personnel really reached out and was really advocating for her, and we placed Lisa in a wonderful host home. And you know, in getting to know the kids, it's so rewarding. It just warms my heart up. One of the things, we set goals together, and one of the things that she said right up front was, I just want to be a kid, and I just want to live in a home. I just want to have that family atmosphere, because she'd always been the responsible one at her house. And so she moved into the home, and she got to be a kid. So for her senior year, part of her junior and senior year. And one of the things that building that relationship, you know, the host home family said, well, you know, what kinds of things did you always dream about? And she wanted to play a sport. Okay, senior year, lacrosse, pretty hard to get into a sport, but they encouraged her, they helped her, you know, with some extra coaching, and she made the volleyball team for her high school. And every single game, she looked into the stands. It was kind of amazing. She would look in the stands to see, is my host home family there? And they were there every time. And she just did amazing things. She graduated from, in this crazy COVID time, she graduated, but not only did she graduate, but people recognized her grit and what she's come through. And because she had that supportive family, she has a full ride scholarship to Viterbo. So she's no longer in the host home family's home. She's moved on. But as Heidi, I know Heidi will tell you this too, those relationships don't disappear. Those relationships are there for you to hold you up. And I anticipate that Heidi and Howie probably for the next several years are going to have maybe a phone call once in a while, or maybe a drop in. And I know that's been true for our other families too that have volunteered. So for me, it is kind of a magic bullet, you know, those relationships that I'm there for you. And even when you move out of my house, I still care about you. For some of these kids, that's the first time that you've had that level of I'm here for you. And that's amazing. And I would echo what Heidi said, is that we often have kids waiting for homes. And right now I have a 15-year-old high school student from Central that is waiting for a home. And I'd be glad to talk to anybody, and Heidi's offered to share her experience too. It just is about being there. It really is. I mean, I don't want to simplify it, because these kids do have some trauma in their lives, but we're there to support you so that we can make a difference for these kids. So thank you for thinking of our program. Thank you, Heidi, for nominating us, because I love this program. It does do magic things. It truly does.
Well, I think the best way to go out is on Diane's sentiments, because I think she did a beautiful job kind of explaining, you know, the heart of what our program is. And what we would ask you to do is we would ask you to vote for our program, because this could actually be the difference between whether or not we are able to hit our budget for the end of the year. We're operating at a deficit right now in our host home programs. It's completely reliant on private dollars. We don't get any public dollars for this program. And so your support is so, so important to us. And then if I could just echo, another step you could take is to think about it. Think about becoming a host home provider. And you can also follow us on Facebook, and you can see all of the things that are happening and the good stories that are happening in our community. So again, thank you, Heidi, so much for nominating us. We have so much gratitude, and thank you to the League for your consideration. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, League.